Hi folks, welcome to this week's Tool Time. Today I'm going to go over the different border punches. Well, I'm going to go over two of our border punches. These are the big standalone punches. They are each $27.50, regardless of whether they are a frame punch or a border punch. But you can use a frame punch to make borders. You just can't always use a border punch to make frames. All right, we're going to go into that in a little bit of detail. Let me make this the big picture in the middle. And we're going to start with the brand new Dine Out. Where's my camera? There we are. We are going to start with the brand new Dine Out border punch. Should I turn it right side up? You can see really adorable. Has a fork, spoon, knife, and a dinner plate. And of course, when we punch this, we're going to get an entire line of those on one place. All of our punches come locked. So you can see here, you just slide that to the other side and the top will pop open. That's really nice for storage so that when you are done using, go ahead and close it and click that lock in the opposite position and it stores flat. Okay, so I know these are bigger because they have the wings on them, but this storing them like this is a lot more compact than if you remember in the olden days. How can we say that about scrapbooking now? The olden days of scrapbooking, when you've got this thing sticking up, and this would get caught on things and loops and everything. So, so the brand new ones, Creative Memories did this great thing where they put these black lines on the very front that you can see what we're doing. If you buy an old one, or if you have an old one that's more than, say, 1.5 to 2 years old, those black lines might not be on the front. You may always add them. In fact, some of the consultants used to add them themselves with magic marker, with a Sharpie marker, and that's where Creative Memories got the idea of like, oh, this needs to be on the front. Or if you wanted to, you could extend that so it's also on the bottom lip as well as the top lip. You can do that with a Sharpie marker. Inside, there is a black line. And if I could get a little more light on the subject here. There, you can see that black line on the inside as well. So that is the line where you want to start your paper. So when you take your 12-inch sheet of paper, and you can see I'm using a scrap piece of cardstock here, you lay this flat on your surface, you slide it in either direction. It can go in this way or it can go in this way. Maybe it's because I'm a right-handed person, I don't know. I prefer to bring mine in this way and feed to the left. It's just the way I've started. So when you bring this in, you want to line that up with that first black line like this, and you want the paper to be all the way in the back. So there's this tray that holds your paper as far back as it will go, and you want to make sure your paper is all the way back. So we're going to line it up with the black mark, push it all the way back, and punch. That is the very first time I've used that, so that there might be a reason why it's a little tougher to do because it's the first time. Also, don't be surprised if I slide this and we see a little oil. Because of the manufacturing process, the first couple times you use a punch, whether it be a border punch or standalone punch, you may find that there is some oil on the blade. And yeah, you can actually see that. Put a little more light on it here. You see, it's not coming up on video so much, but I can tell it here. I've got some little dark edges around the bottoms of the forks, and that's okay. This is going to be a practice piece anyway. And now you're thinking, oh, Connie, you took it out. You're never going to be able to find your place. Of course I will, because what we're going to do is we are going to line up that punch with this design that is on both wings. Okay, so again, you can move it in either direction. I'm moving from left to right. And so we're just going to slide that through until the design matches that blue line completely. So I have completely covered up any blue that matches. So I'm going to set it down, make sure I'm still all the way back. I'm getting rid of my little pieces here. And I punch again. Okay, and you can see now I've got a complete dinner plate and more silverware. And we're going to do that one more time. I think you do about 5 punches across a 12-inch piece of paper. And that should give you a complete border. And you can see that one came off. I actually did this so well, I don't even have little edges. Sometimes I will have a little extra edge hanging off one side. This time I did not. I ended up with half a plate. That's okay. That's the way the design works on your page. And you can see here, would be a very nice border at the bottom of the page, top of the page. You could certainly cut these apart. One of the things you always want to consider when you get a punch is what happens if I don't want to use all of it. So what if I cut out this very interesting dinner plate with my scissors? Okay. Could that be a steering wheel? Could it be a car wheel if I was using punches to make other punches? You could certainly use a portion. If you didn't want that half a plate, you could cut that off and just use the knives and forks. In fact, the fork, you can even cut that one apart itself. And now you have just a little fork, little pitchfork if you're doing Satan for Halloween, or if you're doing farm chores and you want a little pitchfork, now you have a little pitchfork there. The knife looks like the knife will come off pretty well as well. And I have to tell you, you guys know my history. I started my nursing career in the operating room, and I went on to teach surgical technology. And I have to tell you, that looks like a scalpel blade to me. I would definitely use that on any of my Surg Tech pages, not in red. Maybe in red. Actually, that might work. Who knows? So always think about how you can cut your pieces apart. And of course, you can always cut them apart to layer on a journal box. Let's say we had a little journal box here. We could, let's cut that fork right there. Right, that would be an adorable topper for a little journal box, right? About dinner, a fancy dinner where you could not figure out what the silverware was, or just anytime you guys are cooking out, maybe a picnic. This would be great for that. All right, I didn't throw these away yet because this is what I call punch poop. I love that term. Someone coined it, not me. I just like to use it. Maybe just I have a weird sense of humor. So what do we have left over? Well, we do have, because of the way that dinner plate is cut, we do have some very nice little semicircles. So again, if you're building wheels, if you're doing little smiley faces, I mean, right here, I can tell you, there's a little smiley face. And that's a really lovely way to use your punch. Here's the piece where the forks are, and I could see a little bridge there. I really could. I don't know, maybe if I turn it over, does it still look bridge? It does. Still looks like a bridge. So think about that before you throw this stuff away, or if you're building other different punches. Yesterday I built a bell out of ovals, so you just never know what you're going to come up with. Now I have to say I'm not saving it today because we're going to go through a bunch of different punches, so this is all getting thrown in the garbage can. You do want to make sure when you're doing your punches that you periodically pick this up and scoop those away. You don't want it to get buried under here. That's going to cause it to jam. You also, when you are done, hold it up and just give it a couple of clicks just to make sure you don't have any paper remnants hanging out in here. I punched on cardstock, and that punches really well. If you're doing a thin paper, if you were doing one of our designer weight papers, which is a little bit thinner, I'm just going to punch the middle of this so you can see it goes through much faster. It might tear the paper, it might get stuck. So I definitely would want to shake that out and make sure that it was not jammed before I closed it and put it away for good use. So as I said, that is our newest punch, the Dine Out. It just came out a couple weeks ago. This is $27.50 and it's available in the shop. And come on, summer's coming up. You guys with picnics, I know you're going to want this. Now, staying with the border punches, this is an older one and this is no longer in the line, but I wanted to bring this out to show you something. It hasn't happened in a while, but when we get a pattern that is so repetitive that you can't quite figure out where to start and stop, they have placed a hidden, it's not really hidden because I'm going to show you where it is, but it's not completely obvious unless someone tells you to look for it. So let's see if I can get it in. Oh, that was almost a good one there, maybe. Maybe if I do it on this side, I can get a better light. Okay, there we go. That little triangle right there, okay, right at the bottom. So when we are using our punch, we use the same way we made the dinner one, right? Unlock it. You line this up with the black line on front. Do our punch. And there you can see a triangle right under my finger, right there. You can see that right here, okay? So when you are lining up, because you're going to say, well, my gosh, where the heck does this line up go? I don't want to repunch if I don't have to. What you want to do is look for that triangle and make sure the triangle is covering the bottom. So again, sliding over, because you can see, well, it kind of fits here, but there's no triangle. And so that means that I haven't come all the way up. So I'm going to move it until the triangle is in place. Punch. One more time. Again, we're making sure that we are covering up all the blue. And since the triangle is blue, there she is, you want to make sure it's covered. And there's our border punch. So this was the border. I don't know what I would use red waves for. Maybe if I go to the Red Sea, I don't know. Of course, you can always just turn it sideways. Does it even look like waves now? No, it kind of has that scrolling look to it. You could cut off this scalloped edge a little bit if you wanted to. I could almost see a rose in there. So again, we look at Punch Poop, and you've got some wonderful, wonderful, those scrolls. That's one of the reasons I love this one, because you have all these extra scrolls that you can use, that you can decorate your pages with. And you saw what I was doing here, right? Does this not make you think of Barrel of Monkeys, right? How they hang like that? So if you interlock them like that, you could make these the arms. If you wanted to use some other punches and build a monkey, or maybe you have some stickers of monkeys, do that with the interlocking arms, and you've got game night with your kids down easy. And then of course with the wave, we've got these really pretty scallops. And again, where'd my border go, or my journal box go? I had a journal box. Oh, here we go. So again, at the top of the journal box, it's like a little shorter, but decoration at the top of the journal box, decoration on the side of your page. You could run these up and down. When you have very tiny pieces like this, I do recommend our repositionable adhesive, but you could certainly do that to make a border. So again, I've got lots of this stuff. I'm not going to keep this. This is all going in the trash. But you could see how you could use every single bit, right? Scrapbooking. So we have those two are border punches. Now, what looks very, very similar is a frame punch. We have, I think, 2 frame punches available right now. There might be 3. This is the petal frame, which is currently in Last Chance. And we also have a tag frame, and there's one that's like a fleur-de-lis. Now I can't think of the name of that one. Both the petal frame and the fleur-de-lis are in Last Chance. So, but frame punches, they do work the same. They do not have, this one might just be too old. It's newer, it should. This one doesn't have the black line on the front, but it does have a black line inside. Yeah, you can just see the edge of it right there. So it does have a black line on the inside. So again, you would unlock this, and you could use this By the way, if you have a punch that leaves the triangles, remember to cut those off. Just trim 1/8 of an inch off of this before you use it again. I'm just going to flip it around to the other side. And I'm going to show you, this is a frame punch, but it will make a border. And you just feed it through. Now, this double blue line, I am not covering. It will not cover. It's not part of the punch. I'll explain what that is in a minute. But I am able to use this all the way across. One more, and there we have our border using the frame punch. Now remember, I said sometimes I get little, this one is really, really paper thin. It's that little tag here. I can just pull that away. Sometimes they're a little thicker and I have to cut them off, and that's fine. Okay, so there you can use a frame punch to make a border. Now you'll notice these came off without me having to do anything. They just kind of fell off at the edge, whereas this stays on the edge. So that's that definition of a frame punch, is it's going to be an edge maker. So you could do this on the top of a piece of paper and use that entire paper at the top of your page like this. Imagine that was an entire piece of cardstock. Now, what if you wanted something that went all the way around? When you are using a frame punch, use even numbered sizes. This is a 6 by 6 inch square. Okay. 12 by 12 will work, 4 by 4 will work, 2 by 2 will work, although it's really tough to get the 2 by 2s to work. Now, if you are using this as a frame punch, you do not use the interior black lines. That's why there's this double blue or silver line. There, you can see that as more of a silver line, kind of splitting that one in half. Right, so we're actually going to feed our paper through to that line and punch. And now we will, because this is more than 2 inches, we will follow that and we will do that again. Okay, now we will turn our paper 90 degrees and we will feed it into that same point and punch. That little square comes off, and if you're a scrapbooker, you might want to keep that, because that's the most excellent punch proof ever, isn't it? And then we were sliding this through, because as I said, we're going to need 2 of these on each side. Again, just matching up the pattern. Turn it 90 degrees. Punch, save a little square. Finish up that border. And then this one, we're going to end up with 2 squares and one we're going to have to fish out. So we're going to line you up. And then matching it on this side. And that one's actually coming out this side. So we have 4 little squares. And now we have a frame. And this works wonderfully if you wanted to stick your journal box in the middle of that. If you wanted to put a photo in the middle of that. Okay, that would be a lovely way to frame, make a special frame as a photo. You could tuck this under. You could cut this into wedges and use the corners, because it actually almost comes up as an octagon this way, right? So that is the difference between the frame version of a punch and a border punch, but they do look practically identical. Okay, so as I said, frame punches, yes, you can use them to make a border. If you wanted just that, if you just wanted a little bit of that, you would have to trim that yourself. Border punches will come off all by themselves. Okay, so that's this week's tool time. I hope you enjoyed that. And if you do have any questions, please put them in the comments. And I will be back next week, maybe later this week, and we'll see what else we have to talk about. Happy scrapping.